Welcome to Visual Storytelling and Comic Arts, which is MassArt's continuing ed certificate in comics production. It is a year-long certificate, and it is essentially something where we're teaching the form of comics, and we're teaching it broadly for a lot of the different arenas that it's in. So the reason we include visual storytelling is because comics in a lot of ways is our sort of modern day literacy. We use comics kind of all day long. We do emojis and we do text. We combine words and images, and we know how to do that in a very visceral way in modern life. So storytelling with comics is just something that is a really modern form. And it's something that, in my experience in teaching, people are super excited about. Like young people are excited about, artists are excited about, because they know they can use this form to tell new and interesting stories. And regular folks who read graphic novels think, oh, I can do that. And it's true. Anybody can make comics if you learn the form. It's a very, very doable medium. It's a medium with a lot of different skills attached to it. So in addition to being really accessible, we really understand comics when we read them. We know what they mean, and we understand them. They're like clear and clear visual mediums. So it's a contemporary form. It's also a form that's growing. Publishing is growing in comics. Hollywood uses comics. Video games use comics. A lot of cross-platform media uses comics. So LJ and I actually taught at one point a workshop for Hasbro, who was producing toys and wanted to connect their toys to all of these Transformers movies, and they wanted to learn comics. So they actually hired us to teach them how to make comics. It's a very, very modern form. It's also a form that people really like. I write memoir comics, so I like to tell stories about my life, about my family's life, and I think that those are important stories in the world, to have a broader set of knowledge about everybody in our community's stories. And it's also a medium that, because it's kind of multimedia, you learn how to write when you make comics. You learn how to draw when you make comics. You learn how to design when you make comics. And in fact, there's, I think it's Art Spiegelman who tells us that comics are, they're not simply writing and drawing, they're poetry and design. So I like to think about that when I'm thinking about comics. So, so you learn storyboarding, and you learn media practices, you learn publishing. There's just a lot of there's a wide range of skills that you learn when you're learning comics. So it's a really nice introduction to creative work. And ultimately, for me, one of the things that I love about comics, one of the things that just makes me passionate about comics is a great community builder. And Boston has a tremendous comics community. We have 12, this city supports 12 different comic book stores, which is just a lot of stores. And we also have 3 or 4 major comic cons here. We have a foundation that supports comic arts. There are at least 4 universities which have comic events regularly. So this is a comics town, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for making and distributing and finding a market for comics in Boston. So in that way, it's a nice way to be a creative worker in this city. And just to show you that I'm not shining you on, there's real data out there that shows that while other publishing mediums are struggling, comic books are growing. So there are all these different genres of comics. There's graphic medicine. There's history comics, which are really popular in education. There's speculative fiction, and there's even a lot of adult fiction right now in comics. And of course, there's superheroes, and there's fantasy, and those are really popular and get sold to television and Hollywood. And there's a lot of demand for comics style storytelling these days. Okay, so if you're excited about comics and you're like, oh, okay, what happens if I actually take this, if I take this program? So it's pretty straightforward. We have I think there's a pretty clear path to what you need to know to really understand comics. And like I say, we have a great team. Myself and LJ are going to be teaching the introduction to comics, and I will be teaching the nonfiction memoir. LJ will be teaching the cartoon narrative and illustration. And I think I know I have in mind who's going to teach the typography course, and it's somebody who is just like knows so deeply the typography. It's really fun to learn lettering in that way. And one of the things at the end of this program, if you take the full year certificate, and if you take all of these things at the end, we're going to have a course in graphic publications, and so what I can kind of promise you is if you follow this, you will have something to publish at the end of it. And I think that's what's really exciting about it. And I know this from experience because I taught graphic novels in my studio. I've taught it at a number of different schools. I know that if you have the skills and you work through it, you can make a comic. You can make a comic and you can make a graphic novel. It's very doable, and we can walk you through that. So the graphic publication is one of the things I'm sort of super excited about, that people will make beautiful things and then we're gonna like help them get them published. So comic art and social practice is one of the electives. So I write memoir, but I also do some comic journalism. I tell stories about real life events, and I think that that's going to be a really exciting elective course in these. So we have a few electives, but a lot of this is just very hands-on, very material knowledge that you need to learn to do sort of professional comics making. And they include skills that you can use broadly that will, if you want to say go work in a creative industry, these are skills you can apply to that. You'll learn script writing, you will learn narrative structure, you will learn penciling and inking, you'll learn storyboarding. And all of these things go together to really for design and designing your pages. I think one of the things that I learned in learning to make comics is how much design structures are important in comics, like really being able to design a page that goes with another page that tells a story. And actually, in Boston, we have some really great experimental artists who we can have come in and talk about some of that design process. So anyways, it's just like a lot of great material is going to be here. And I think it's really an accessible program. It's right in the middle of Boston. MassArt is such a great university system. And although these are going to be online classes, as a MassArt student, you're going to be part of that community. And like I say, I think that comics are great because it builds community. Oh, I just went through all these. But I think this makes it clear too, is that book design is another one of them, comics for web design, journalistic and ethnographic methodologies. Comics gives you a lot of these skills that are really very applicable to other mediums if you're interested. And also I think that one of the things, if you learn comics, you develop a broad creative practice. And if you're somebody who's thinking about, say, going to art school, and you take a certificate program like this, you're going to get a lot of skills in a few mediums. And that's going to give you some sense of like, oh, I really want to write for comics, or I think I'm a really great inker. I'm really good at color design. And that's going to give you sort of a sense of like, and now I want to go into like this particular creative field. Oh, like I think I'm so good at this that I'm good. And so because it's really like giving you a piece of a whole bunch of different methods, I think it's really, I think comics, if you're just sort of dipping your toe into being a creative, I think comics is actually a really great way to start. Anybody can make comics. I'll say it over and over again. Anyone can make comics. It's just, if you are excited, if you have a story you want to tell, we can help you get there. I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, I love comics, I have an idea for a story, but I can't draw. That's not gonna get in your way with the way we teach, because we will teach you how to draw if that's something you need, but we also understand that, like I say, it's design, it's story structure, it's panel structure, it's how a story moves through a page and through a book. So drawing is just a piece of it, and we can help you get to where you want to go to tell the story you need to tell. So
I know you're going to open it up to questions and faculty, but I just want to throw in a question myself, which is because I've gotten a lot of inquiries, even from within MassArt. What about for really sophisticated artists who've had a practice for a long time, but they've had a sort of side curiosity about the graphic novel? So they might have all the skills in the world, but like this is a little intimidating.
Well, come on down. I mean, I think that.
Well, I'm gonna, but for other people.
well, look, putting it together, like comics is a specific form. And so I think that in many ways it is a little easier to start at the very beginning than to be like, I'm used to being like, mastering my form, but this is a form you can learn like any other form. Yeah. And so I think that I would say that they will learn the form, and that will be valuable to putting together a book, because I'm part of the Boston Comics Roundtable. We meet every week, and we have people who come who are professional artists, and they're like, oh, well, I want to make a comic. I have the story, but I'm not sure about, just stuff like, how do I organize my gutters? How do I, move a narrative through a page? How do I, like, what are the conventions of drawing a page, one page to the next page? And those are some specific set of conventions, and we can teach them to you.
Thanks, Ida. I know there are other questions in the chat, and so I'll leave you to it now. Thank you.
Well, I want to throw it to LJ and Austin to introduce themselves. Like I say, LJ is a cartoonist and Austin is a comic scholar, and I want them to introduce themselves and tell us why they love comics and what they want to teach in their classes. Let me stop the share here, and I'm going to throw it to LJ.
Cool. Thanks, Ida. And hello, everybody. I'm LJ, of course, and I've been making comics since I was a little kid. I've always really loved them, and cartoons and animation, all that stuff, just visual storytelling in general. To touch back on something that Haida was mentioning earlier, just getting to utilize the medium of comics as a way to tell stories has been super important to me, and really gratifying, because it's something that provides this huge creative freedom that you don't really get to have anywhere else, because unlike with mediums like animation, you're not limited by anything. You're not limited by budgets or by other visions that may clash with your own. You get to really explore whatever type of thing you want to create in your own way, and it could just be purely your vision and your style that gets reflected on each page that you create. I've been doing comics forever, but I have a comic series that I've been doing over the past 11 years now, called Comicscape. I have it over here, one of the books, and it's been something that I've gotten to enjoy a lot, have a lot of fun with, and I've also gotten to take a lot away from not just working on my own comic projects, but also getting to connect with people in terms of the different workshops and classes that I've gotten to teach. So like Haida mentioned, we did Hasbro before, and I've gotten to teach for the ICA and for Google, and also last year I was the BPL's first teen artist in residence, so I was teaching a comics program for them for half of last year. So yeah, I'm excited to just get to bring some of what I've gotten to learn over time through the comics that I make and through the teaching I've done to all of you. And yeah, that's me.
Thanks so much, LJ. LJ is going to be teaching our world building and character design second section of Intro to Comics, and he does really amazing comics, like really amazing character design, and his description of bangs and manga, just genius. Let me move this over to Austin, who's going to introduce themselves and is going to talk a little bit about reading comics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Austin. I mean, I've loved comics since I can quite literally remember. I study comics. I study the history of comics, the form of comics. But more importantly, I think to me, I study the way that we make meaning out of comics, at least in my academic research. So primarily I study superheroes or transmedial superheroes, which would be superheroes across any medium, radio, television, video games, what have you. But I've always been obsessed with the iconography of a hero and how over time through the comics medium, this icon can be contributed to from different writers, different artists, different aesthetics, and different kinds of meaning circulating around this one focal idea, right? The idea of truth and justice, or the idea of justice itself. And if we can establish like an icon like Superman with these meanings that we've bestowed on that character and track them across our Western cultural history, we can see shifts in our own collective ideologies, shifts in our own ideas of what heroism are and what justice are. But also going back to the medium of comics, what we would be looking at is establishing how does comics create this meaning? How do the absence between panels actually demonstrate so much more than what the panels themselves are producing, right? So Haida talked about we're going to be talking about how to construct a narrative across a page. We're also going to be talking about how when reading a comic, we can see how that page could be broken down, how this artist could have achieved this narrative aesthetic, and how we would go about doing it in our own way. So the number one step to learning how to write is to read more. So if we're going to be creating and writing and drawing comics, we are going to be reading them, and we're going to be reading different examples of them. One key one that I've been planning on is a comic that Haida and I have discussed called Hedra, which really challenges a lot of the conceptions about comics in that it has no words. So the integration of words and imagery that we kind of take for granted as a staple of the medium, this was able to pull it off, achieve everything about it, and yet take away what we consider one of the most fundamental aspects of the form. So with that, I would just end by saying that our class is going to discuss kind of the prismatic aspects of comics, how you can put one idea in it and follow that idea across 12 different avenues of presentation, aesthetic, page layout. We'll be talking about comics terminology, talking about the ideas of closure, and a lot of things that if you Google Scott McCloud, we'll be kind of starting off with that and moving forward and just allowing you to kind of follow your own interests and follow the different ideas that you feel would best convey meaning. And so to do that, we'll be exploring how meaning is conveyed in a multitude of different ways. So
Thanks. That's awesome. And I want to just say that Hedra is a Boston artist. Like Jesse Lonergan is a Boston artist, and it's possible that we could bring him in to talk about his work, because he is like just a local guy who, like, he sold work in my workspace, and he is now one of his work is incredibly formally interesting, as Austin talks about, and everyone is obsessed with it. It's so cool.
If you want, Heidi, I can start fielding some of the questions. My name is Brenna Kennedy. I am the marketing coordinator for professional and continuing education. So there's some questions about the timeline. So do you have to take 2 classes, or could you just take one at a time? And if somebody's interested, do they have to start this fall, or could they start at a later point?
You can definitely start whenever you like. Right now, we're at the very early stages, so we're letting people come in as they need to and try out the classes. So if you want to try one class, for sure, take a class and see how it works for you. We want people to be able to get this full education, but we also start where you're ready to start, and that is totally doable. And we welcome you to come in and just try a class.
Can a high school student with a very high interest in this form join?
I think so. I think we're saying that we're letting high school students in for sure. We will be very welcome.
Have any school teachers taken this before?
Well, this is a new program, so nobody has taken it before, but certainly in my teaching, I have had teachers take this course.
I already graduated from MassArt. Am I able to apply?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are able and very welcome. I think you'll have all the skills that you need to go through the program. That would be perfect. We love MassArt students.
And we love MassArt, yeah. And they also ask where to apply. So Jackie, would you mind putting the how to apply link in the chat? And when does this program start? When will the program run?
Well, it starts this fall, correct? Our deadline for signing up is August 10th.
August 11th.
Oh, August 11th, sorry. What is the first day of classes?
I believe September 6th. I think so, is the first class. And is this a certificate program where anyone can apply, or do you need to be a student for MassArt?
Anyone can apply. This is like MassArt. This is MassArt's real effort to expand our community and welcome. MassArt is such a wonderful organization. It's a public art school, and so we are here for the entire Boston community. And so anyone who wants to take this course is very welcome.
I have a few questions. First, is the class live or pre-recorded? This might be a good point to talk about kind of like how online classes will look.
Right. Well, it is absolutely live. We may produce some programs, some digital exercises that you can use throughout the week that are pre-recorded, but the class itself is entirely live. I mean, the way that we organize an online class, the way I organize an online class is really with a lot of discussion, with some work. It's similar, not dissimilar to how I would organize a class in IRL, which is we spend time talking about comics. We spend time actually doing some drawing, and then we break into groups and look at the drawings that we've done and talk about them. And then we make some plans for what we'll do during the week, so that everybody has some practice that they're doing throughout the week.
We had read that only students 18 and up could join. I will be 18 in a few months, so do I need to wait?
Brina, does anyone have that? Yeah.
That's a good question. I believe, and now I'm backtracking on the high school. Are you currently in high school or just graduated? Because I believe we asked for, yeah, Jackie, maybe you could step in.
I was going to say that continuing education is for adults 18 and over, but we do have some students who are 17, for example. But underage, we would want the guardian to give their, to have them know that this is happening.
Right.
Say, yeah, I wouldn't. We have a K-12 program, and they also offer some comics classes. It's not a certificate, but we do have a K-12 section as well. We wouldn't want a 14-year-old or something like that in the classes.
Right, but I would say that if you're 17 and you're really like if you get your parent to sign something and you write to us and give us sort of the explanation of why you think you're ready for this class, I think we can work with that.
Right.
I'm a photographer and would like to use my photography as a backdrop or integrated into my story somehow. Is that something I could work out in this program?
Absolutely. There's actually a history of photographic comics. So like the Italian comics did these Italian artists in the 40s and 50s did these photorealist comics that are actually really cool. So I would love that. There's a subgenre for you if that's what you want to do. And a lot of people do that. Yeah.
What is the cost of this program? We can put the tuition in the chat, but each class runs for 7 weeks and it's $500 per class. And then on a similar note, how long are the classes, and are the classes once a week?
The classes are once a week. They're 3 hours long, as I understand it. And I think that, and yeah, they're once a week, 3 hours long.
As an incoming sophomore transfer student at MassArt, will I be able to fit classes from this program into my schedule?
Probably, because MassArt's classes are during the day and these classes are in the evening.
How-
Can I chime in on that one, Brenna, real quick?
Please.
Yeah.
So as an incoming sophomore, these are non-credit classes. You can take them through continuing education, but you wouldn't be able to apply financial aid to them, and you would have to pay for them out of pocket when you register for them. So that it would be sort of outside of your standard course schedule, and it would not be included in your tuition.
And Austin answered a question, but maybe you want to talk a little more about it. How strong do my drawing skills need to be before joining the program?
I am going to throw that to LJ because LJ has a great answer that I completely agree with on this question, which is a really common question people ask about comics.
Thanks, Haida. And I see from Austin's answer too that we're all fully aligned in this. But yeah, I'd say that as far as that's concerned, there really isn't anything to worry about in terms of drawing skills or anything like that. I'm personally not someone that even believes in the idea of not being able to draw. I think everybody can draw. And I don't mean that as some type of thing to just say and throw out there. I understand that there are different things people may like to draw or to learn how to draw, but that's different from being able to do it. And one of the things that comes with that is getting to just keep in mind and understand the value that still gets to exist in many ways, even when you draw something that has a very simple form to it. So if you have something like a stick figure, for instance, that may not be something that you would initially think as something worthy of drawing, but even for something as simple and straightforward as that, by making it, you're creating a human being that's able to be seen as relatable to the maximum amount of people that exists, because there's no specificity in the design. So that person, that stick figure, could be anybody. They could have any background, they could have any gender, and they could be anybody. So anyone could see themselves in that stick figure. But if you have something that you start to add hair to, you start to add clothes to, then you make it more specific, and that adds detail and adds layers to it. But at the same time, that leads to something that less people can personally relate to in the same way. So what we're going to get to do and take advantage of in the classes that we're putting on is getting to start things off in a way to where everybody can jump in. So it'll get to be accessible, because that's part of the beauty of comics, but at the same time, we'll get to show you the additional layers you could add on to that metaphorical stick figure to get to make it more unique to the type of thing you want to accomplish artistically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there exactly there. Like, there are some really both excellent and successful cartoonists and cartoons out there who draw entirely with stick figures. So drawing is, if you want to like be more and more realistic, you can learn how to do that, and we can help you with that. But as far as like the drawing skills needed to make a comic and tell a story, anything goes.
And just to hop off of that question, is the program taught more towards pencil and paper or digital?
I think we will start pencil and paper, but we will definitely welcome anybody whose primary form is digital. So I'm very, I try to leave it, I like people to start learning with pencils, just because it allows you, in some ways, it allows you to draw badly initially. Like it's easier to draw badly, and being able to draw in that really rough way that we were talking about, it can be a really useful way to start. But I let people choose their form, particularly for their final projects.
Annie, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I have a question. The question is regarded to the recommendation letter. I just asked my coworker, I just asked my supervisor, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this program. Can you write me a recommendation? And he said, I can talk about your character, but like in terms of your art skill, like I may not be like the one to qualified to write it. But I'm just wondering, like, if you're like a freelance artist, you graduated college in 2020 and you're just like kind of like bouncing around like different organizations and stuff, like I know it's optional, but I just want to have a strong application. Like what kind of recommendation letter of support are y'all looking for?
It is optional so I wouldn't worry about it. I think that like it would be great if you wanted to tell us more about yourself, like, because we always want to know more about who you are and what you're. So I would actually, that's what I would use a recommendation letter for, as a way to introduce yourself to us. Like, tell us who you are, let us know a little bit of your interests so we can help fulfill them. So don't think about it as us judging you on your recommendation letter. Think about it as a way to introduce yourself to us.
Can I ask a follow-up question, or like
Yeah, go ahead.
so like for example, like if I'm working at a community like health center right now, and I asked my supervisor to write me a recommendation, could he talk about like my impact like in the program and like how this program would enhance like my communication? Or
That'd be beautiful. I would love to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Joe, maybe you want to take this. Would you have to pay for it in full, or can you pay it on a plan? Is it all due at once in full?
Well, how it works is you pay for what you take. So it's not a big lump tuition payment like it is with, say, an undergrad. So for this program, if you register for one class in the fall and that's all you're going to take, when you register, you would need to pay for it, and it would be $500. So I think Jackie might have mentioned earlier that there's also no financial aid available. So it's pay as you go. If you want to take one class per semester, you can do that. If you want to take two, you can do that. You would have to pay obviously per class, so that would be $1,000. Also, if you say, oh geez, I can't do a class in the spring when my schedule is stacked, you can take a semester off. You can say, I can't do it this time, I'll do it in the summer, I'll take another one in the fall. You can do it at your own pace. We say a year, and that's because lots of people like to finish certificates in a year if they can. But if it's physically something you can't do because of work, or financially it's something you can't do, you can sort of pace it on your own in your own way. So that's that's it in a nutshell, really. Unfortunately, there isn't aid available, so you would have to pay everything out of pocket, and there is no payment plan available. So it's pay as you register.
Awesome. And I realized I misspoke as well. It's $550 per class, not 500. So two would be 1,100. And you kind of already answered, if we wait to start the program in the second or third term, will the classes be out of order and will we be behind? And then we can still finish the program if we start late.
I think that you're like the only classes that are sort of in order are the intro 1 and intro 2. Well, intro 1 and intro 2 with the comics class. I think you could probably get away with taking those. I think it would be easier if you had some of the grounding of the first one, but I think you could probably, so I would, in some ways, I would leave that up to your judgment. But I think you get value from doing it in order, but you could probably manage with doing them sort of off kilter that way.
And then maybe each faculty member could talk about how much homework or projects will be required.
Okay, well, usually what I do is I have an assignment that can be either done in a relatively short amount of time, or it can be developed into something more elaborate. So I give you kind of a range of like, I'd like you to spend maybe 3 hours on this, but if you could also spend 7 or 8 hours on it. And what I find is as the semester goes along, people start spending more and more time on their homework assignments, and because they get excited about them, because all of them are leading towards a project that is their own story. So that's my experience anyways, is that I'll give you an assignment that you have you can kind of choose to do it like with a quick hand, or you can spend some time on it. And as you get more and more excited about it, you'll spend more time. LJ and Austin?
So speaking for myself in terms of load of work, things like that, I am very big on discussion, especially traditionally I'm a literature major, and so I feel that discussion, varied perspectives, all of these different things are very important to bring together in a classroom, especially when you're dealing with a versatile form like comics. So typically I'm very much, I have been in the past, let's say that, someone that likes written answers, essays, but I'm more inclined towards longer term projects, right? So I'm more in the moment, like in class exercises, discussion based on those exercises, discussion on readings, discussion posts that aren't strictly weekly, but also keep up with what we're talking about in terms of general themes, general ideas. Essentially, and honestly, I'll just put it like this. I don't exactly know what the workload will be, but I can guarantee it will not be so much that you will be overwhelmed. The majority of the work you'll be doing for me is reading and telling me what you thought about that reading, analysis, looking at the art and the words on a page, and being able to look at me and saying, you know how it's being expressed, you know how the form is conveying this, and just being able to generally all around, all of us be able to communicate where we are in the class and where we are with understanding the form of comics as a group, right? So in terms of work, it's less of do this, prove to me that you listened and we're done. I like to see it more as a cohesive, we're trying to work together to learn these new things together. And it's just any work that you do will be in service of that, just trying to get you to engage with the readings with your own perspective, rather than trying to just get you to regurgitate answers or thoughts or terms back to me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm absolutely right with Paida and Austin on all of that. And yeah, I'd say that the thing that I see the class getting to do that will just get to be effective is just making sure to introduce and break down and discuss these different techniques that exist as far as comics go. And then from there, allowing y'all the space to get to apply it to your own stories in your own ways. And then we can also just be part of the process in terms of helping to just give you certain guidelines along the way. So yeah, just like Austin mentioned earlier, The goal would definitely not be for anything to be overwhelming, but for it to just be more like a natural opportunity to organically implement the things that we're breaking down and getting to talk about and deepening our understandings of.
And I would say for myself that I find that one of the value of having these really long classes, like a 3-hour class, is that you get to do work in class and then go back to the group and talk about that work and show it to each other and get feedback on it. And that is just a really exciting experience. That's sort of like getting to go through the whole sort of artistic like cycle in a small period. And that really can be kind of like jet fuel for getting you started on a project that you do in the rest of the week. So like doing a lot of your work in class, I think, is really just great community building, great skill building, and really like makes it a more enjoyable experience.
And Joe answered some questions in the chat about the application, but I just want to emphasize what Haida said earlier. Don't stress about the application. Like, it really is a way for us to get to know you better and why you love comics, why you want to take this program. And so when things are optional, it's not a trick, they truly are optional. So you do not have to feel pressure to include stuff that you feel like you don't have, you don't want it.
Right. If a recommendation letter feels like, oh no, they're going to judge me, don't worry about it. Like, we want students right now. Like we really just want students to come in and take our classes right now. We're super psyched to meet you all and have you come and take our classes. And we're all really committed to teaching comics and really love comics and really want to make these really great, fun, exciting classes. So the onus is on us to make them really tremendous. And you just got to come and like hold our feet to the fire on that.
Yeah, just let me jump in about the app process. Just in terms of what we're looking for, it seems a little fuzzy, and it's a little fuzzy, but what we really are looking for are, people that have a lot of interest in this. So if you are dedicated and you say, hey, this is something I really want to do, as pointed out, you can do it with stick figures or you can do it with, photorealistic artwork. So it works on every level. So what we're really interested in is you, and we're interested in you being excited about the program, being interested in the program, and really wanting to do it. So that's the key to the application. Just tell us what you want to do, and we want you to be enthusiastic and interested in the program. That's really the most crucial thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of like, who should apply? Somebody asked, what if you're older than 45?
Come on down. I won't be alone.
CE has students anywhere from, as we said, 17 and some people into their 80s. So it's open to pretty much everybody, whoever you might be. So feel free to apply, whoever you are.
Yeah.
And going back to the Hasbro workshop that Haida mentioned that we got to do a few years ago too, like that was an experience where they had their design team over from Rhode Island, and we were teaching these folks about comics in all these different ways, and it was a wide spectrum of ages that everybody was at. So we've gotten to also have that experience, getting to bring comics to folks that haven't gotten to do it before, that are already adults that have that interest.
Yeah, I mean, that was great because they were mid-career professional designers and toy builders, and they were very accomplished in their fields, but they just wanted to learn about comics. And so they really needed that kind of formal introduction to them.
Are you teaching the exact same course with Hasbro, or was that a custom curated course for the company?
That was a curated course for the company, but there are a few basic forms to comics that you would probably teach in most introductory comics courses. So you will definitely get some of the material there, but this is a longer, much more in-depth course that you'll get. You'll get way more than the Hasbro people get.
And the chat is dying down. Does anyone want to unmute and ask any more questions or tell us about who you are?
Hello. Is it okay if I jump in?
Definitely.
Hi, I'm Blake. I just have a few questions. I heard about this through an email from a BCR. I think that's what it's called.
That's
All
right.
Couple of quick questions. So, is this like you're doing for only 1 year, or can I join next year if possible?
We hope that this is ongoing. So yeah, if now isn't the right moment for you, you can definitely take it later.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Is there a portfolio requirement for the application?
There's not a requirement if you want to submit images so that we can just, again, like an introduction to us, so we get a sense of who you are. That is an optional part of the.
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up there for a second. Can you say that again?
Oh, it's not, it's optional. So it's not a requirement, but if you want to introduce us and tell us what kind of work you're doing, that would just let us know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so in general, as far as the application goes, so what is the general application like consist of?
It's just application's pretty simple. You fill out the application. We're asking for a resume, statement of purpose, and images if you've got them. That's really about it.
And where do people find the application, Joe?
I posted it in the chat, so the page is listed there. The application link is at the bottom of that page. That page also contains information about the entire program, course sequence, the detail of the curriculum, and the application link.
So that's on the page that is if you go to the comic certificate page. It's
Yep, it's here. I can link it again. Hang on.
In fact, why don't you share your screen and show it to us?
It's right there. Yeah.
I can share my screen if you want to see it.
So here it is. No.
So if you go to the MassArt website and you go to the continuing education section, you can find the certificate programs, and under the certificate programs is the visual storytelling and comics art. And then if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, that's where the application is.
Oh, okay.
And all those links contain, those are all links above it. So
yeah,
questions about
right. So the course sequence is there, and the requirements and the tuition, and sort of all the info that is the basic stuff is there.
Okay, cool.
Right. Awesome. Thank you.
But are there images that go with these courses? Like, can I see what hand lettering is? That's just something I just saw, or, I mean, there's not a lot of pictures.
Well, there's a lot of most comics, any lettering that you've seen in a comic is either hand lettered or designed after some kind of hand lettering. If you wanted to write me and ask me for some examples, I'd be happy to give you more specific examples.
Okay.
But, yeah, you can find it on the website.
Okay. Was there a slide deck for this presentation?
Yeah, I was just about to say, we're recording this, and so I'll be sending out the recording as well as all of these links, and also our contact information. So if you have any questions, you can, please reach out to us, and I'll put the tuition and how to apply and everything in there.
Okay, how many people?
Anyone who wants to write me, I'm gonna put my my MassArt email here. You can
Did you mention the class size?
what is the class size? I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but
Class sizes are relatively small. I believe the cap is 12. And so that's the most, oh, no more than 15. Okay, the cap is 15.
and that's a small enough size to have a really intimate educational experience. And we can like having taught at that size, it's a really nice size. We can break up into groups and talk about our work. We can look at things, we can show each other work. It's a really nice size for a class.
All right. It
Somebody
is
else?
set. Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
I just saw that we have, I guess there's one last question about how valid the application is if they can't enroll this fall. Joe,
What it is?
how long is the application valid if you fill it out but can't enroll this fall?
You just have to defer a semester. It's fine. It's valid for it's valid for 2 semesters essentially before you'd have to reapply.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's not
Yeah, thanks so much for your interest. We really appreciate it. And I hope I see you later. This is going to be a really fun semester. And thanks again for coming.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Hello,
everyone.
I'm sorry, but I just have one last question before we go.
Okay.
All right.